So it can be very kind of defined roles. And I like that to some regard, but I also like the fact that because we got to go away, we got out of our comfort zone. When I found out that I like other things that I don't know if I want to be in one of those paths for now, I just want to take a year to kind of figure out what I do like. But what I did learn from my time maybe in Jasper with yourself or um, a few other people, when I met you, like I was on my own. So I didn't have anything to relate to about any past experiences. So I was completely out of my comfort zone with a lot of people, your buddies who became my buddies, um, that I could relate to, but we didn't have anything like any past experience. So I was like I was out of my depth in that regard.
My name is Dylan Birch. Over the past 4 years, I've been traveling Canada via train, plane, and even hitchhike, working anywhere from McDonald's to lighting films. What I've found sparks my curiosity is how much we can learn from a meaningful conversation. When we engage with curiosity, it helps us better connect with ourselves and with others. Deeper connection raises levels of dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, and other well-being biochemicals in our brain. We can create positive benefits for our body and our mind. This makes conversation part of the cure. This is the Curiosity Curve.
What's going on, Kev? We'll get started from here. We've been chatting a couple minutes beforehand here, but this is essentially going to be one of the episodes along the way. And I wanted to bring Kev on today, first of all, because of our backstory, but just the fact that all the conversations we've had in the last little while, man, or even since we kind of had this experience together that we'll dive into, we've always had good conversation, and it's always kind of,
Yeah,
I feel like you're someone who always builds me up, and I kind of feel like we have that mutual kind of bond between each other, man, and we
I would
only
agree.
really
I would
know
agree.
each other through a week of some wild events.
Yeah, definitely,
So
definitely.
I'll let you start it off, man. Start off maybe what you do, what you're a part of, and then. But I want the question to be rather than who you are and what you do and things like that. To who are you? Like, who is Kevin? Like, not what you go to school for, not what you do for a living. Like, who are you? What are your characteristics? And deep down, who do you feel you are? Who is Kev?
I get it. Yeah. So for those of you that might not know, my name is Kevin Doran. So I'm from Dublin, Ireland, in Europe, and I basically for 2 summers I spent a lot of time in Vancouver, and as many college graduates or now graduates, but at then we were first year students and second year students, and we spent a lot of time in Vancouver, and we did a lot of wild stuff when we were over there, and yeah, so basically now I've just graduated and I'm kind of free and I've just taken a year off to kind of figure out what's going on around me. And so I'm working on that at the moment and seeing what I like. Haven't really found what I like yet, but we'll see. It'll come eventually. But how I met you is kind of a crazy story. Um, I was in Vancouver during summer of 2018, I believe. I think it would have been 2018, Dylan.
Something
Let's
like
see.
that, yeah. Yeah,
Something like
man,
that.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically me and three friends decided to go to Banff National Park. We didn't have a whole lot of money, and a lot of guys actually got laid off their jobs because some contracting bullshit with construction, you know yourself. So we decided we go to Banff. So we hitchhiked like 800 kilometers up to Banff from Vancouver City. It was kind of crazy with like truck drivers, and we got kind of lost a few times because nobody would give us a lift. But anyway, eventually we got there and spent the 3 good days there, hanging out, looking at like all the cool lakes and stuff they have in Banff. And then after that, the guys wanted to go home, so I was kind of left at a crossroads in Banff National Park because they wanted to go home and I quit my job. So I was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go out by myself." Um, so I heard of a place called Jasper National Park, and it was another few hundred kilometers away. But the problem was, as many people would know, in Jasper National Park, there's only like one town in the entire national park. and it's a very sparse region around that. So from there, I decided to hitchhike towards Jasper, and there's quite a lot of grizzly bears in Jasper, so I was told. And so eventually, I got to Jasper town on an evening by myself, and I'd never been there before. And the hostel was like 80 euros for a night. And for anyone who knows me, I'm not really about that kind of thing. Paying 80 euro for a hostel. So I was sitting in Tim Hortons for like 5 hours, like, what the fuck am I gonna do? And so I came to decide that I was gonna ask anybody in the hostel to see what in Tim Hortons what were they up to. And I met another guy who was about 20, 25 years my senior. Like he was a lot older, maybe close to my parents' age. And he said, "Man, I don't like paying 80 euro for a hostel either." And I was like, "Oh, me too." And so lo and behold, we decided we were going to sleep out in Jasper National Park. So we found a generator that was kind of hot. So we decided it'd be a good place to stay because there might not be any animals around. So me and him
explain the generator, man. Sorry to cut you off, but like I remember you telling me this story. So like, where is this generator in relation to where you are? And like, you and this guy like have now spent a little bit of time together. So what's going on there?
So after coming through the national park, I did see a lot of wildlife. Like you guys have like moose and there was some bears, black bears. So I didn't want to go anywhere near any like shrubs or anything like that. I wanted to stay on like concrete. And at the back of Tim Hortons, there just happened to be a generator powering the building. And I was like, man, that's making a lot of noise, that generator. Maybe we can sleep there to be no animals. So it was a little bit dangerous. Me and this guy, I just trusted him. I don't know why I trusted him, but yeah, he was like typical candidate for some kind of scary movie, like an older white guy on his own. And I didn't know what I was thinking, but I trusted him anyway. And we decided we'd sleep there because it was like a buzzing noise. So we thought maybe the animals would come.
In the middle of the town, nonetheless, where like there's the animals are coming like to Timmy's anyways. Like,
yeah.
I think that's why I'm laughing here in the background, just imagining this. But
it was pretty reckless, to say the least. But yeah, so we slept there. We didn't get the greatest sleep of all time. So this led to me meeting you. The guy said, "I'm never doing that again." The guy I slept with. And so the next day we went to look for a campsite, and he was like, he only had one more night in Jasper National Park, but I had like 5 maybe. So we went out of the town and looked for a campsite, and in the campsite we found this little place where you could pitch tents for pretty cheap. So we decided to stay there, and basically we were wandering into the campsite, and it was like this deer staring at us. And I was just like, what? Because like we don't really have like I wouldn't be used to seeing wild animals going around the place in Ireland because I live in the suburbs maybe. But yeah, so we were sitting there looking at this deer, and then I look across and I see this happy camper coming along with like long blonde hair and a load of girls and 2 guys with him, maybe 1 guy, and a big smile on his face. And then he's looking at the deer, and I'm looking at the deer, and I'm like, okay, those guys are my age. Like that's who I should be hanging out with. And eventually, the deer kind of ran off, and we got talking, and that's how we kind of met in the middle of that national park.
Yeah, man.
I'm sure you remember.
Yeah, absolutely. And on my side of things, what was going on for me at that time was that was a wild time, man. I actually I talked about it in the first podcast I did a little bit, but I had actually gone through a week before I left on that trip. I had a car crash, man, and like in that moment, I feel like it was an experience where like, man, there's no way I should have made it out of. So it shook me up, man. It shook up my perspective. It shook up the way I wanted to look at things. And I was in a place where I was going back out to Jasper for another job, and I had already worked a summer out there. And in my head, after going through that was, why am I doing this again? Something I've already done. And as I got on that train, something I've also done multiple times, but I love the train because it's always different, I feel. Such a wild time. But I met these people, man, and they were super cool people, which is usually what I always end up linking up with on the train, like no matter what age or anything. But we all bonded through these 3 days, and we decided to all get off and camp together. I decided not to even take this job. I had stuff already in this staff accommodation. I was storing other people's gear for the night while we camped, and I had so much fun the first night camping at this same campsite that I said, "Screw it, guys!" Like everyone else was maybe only staying one more night, but I was
Yeah,
like, I don't know why I'm just gonna say no to everything here, and I had like no money either, man, and
I
I just did
remember.
it. I did it, man, and and
Yeah,
all of a sudden the next day we went and someone helped me in their rental vehicle go back and grab all the luggage and stuff, and I threw it in the person's tent and we switched campsites, and that's when we bumped into you with the deer, man. And from there, like, I think of our soundtrack was basically Body by Loud Luxury the rest of that week.
yeah,
Yeah, man. And
definitely.
then, basically where it led from that was ventured around the next few days, and um, you hitchhiked back to Vancouver, and myself and one other decided we were going to go out to Vancouver, and we trained and met you there, man. And we had some pretty wild times in
Yeah,
Vancouver as well, buddy.
that's true. Yeah, it was really really ideal timing because we were staying in a basement and four guys and two guys had just gone home and then you and that girl from Quebec came down. It was worked out perfect for space. We had enough bed for everybody. Yeah,
Yeah, man. And I think that's a good place to sidetrack now from how we kind of met each other. And what I thought was really cool in that time learning about you was that you did have just like a bunch of Irish guys, young Irish guys. At that point, you guys were like what, 20? And you were
yeah,
all like piled in a room. You and Peter,
yeah,
your buddy Peter, were sharing a bed in a bedroom. You guys shared a
yeah.
bedroom.
Me and Peter.
Like, and that's something I think here in Canada, and I think back home where I'm from in Ontario, you definitely don't see things like that. And like, you don't get to see a lot of Europeans and things like that in the same way you do out west here in Canada. But what
Mhm.
was really interesting to me, man, was the fact that that seemed like a normal thing for you guys. You finish high school, you take that year or two, and you go explore, you go with your buddies. And that's part of the actual quote unquote journey that's norm for you guys before going off to uni or settling down to do these things, whatever seems
Yeah,
next. That's almost like a societal norm to
true,
kind of take this
true.
year off, right? Where here it's like go, go, go. Like you go right from high school, you got to jump into university. I
Yeah.
didn't take that. Oh, I smoked my mic. I didn't take that route myself, but that seems to be more the norm out here. So could you maybe explain for some of the people here in Canada what that experience is like for you guys?
Yeah, so I'd totally like I know what you're hinting at there. Basically, you guys in North America are slightly different to Europe. Like we both speak English, I think, but different kind of mindset for the majority. Because university is only like €3,500 in Ireland per year. Now, not only I'm not saying it in that way, like it's only three and a half
Yeah.
thousand, but you can make that work in McDonald's in the summer, or as I would have done. So basically, if you're from Dublin and you don't have to pay for accommodation, you have like maybe some extra money to go on holidays each summer. And the Canadian government are pretty good that they have good visa terms with Ireland. So for 2 summers, I went to Canada for almost 4 months, and we were able to afford to kind of well, we had to live like obviously sharing beds and stuff like that with a lot of Irish guys, but we were able to afford to have a good time and do a bit of construction and that kind of thing. So yeah, we've been very lucky. Rather in North America, I think it's like let's fucking go. We're gonna take on debt and to get through college, and you have to do college and this, that, and the other. But I don't know, really. Sometimes it's good to take a step back, and because we don't have to pay as much, we get time to do other things that don't involve working like crazy.
Yeah, man.
So yeah,
And I even think, sorry, I'll let you finish your thought there. Was that?
no, that's pretty much what how I think of
Yeah.
North America versus Europe in some
Yeah, man.
regards.
And not even to dig too deep in the fact of like how we, push and go. Like I think that's definitely a factor. But I think the super interesting thing, man, is um the fact that you guys circle up, man. You grab your circle and you
Yeah,
go somewhere, and it's like, yo, guess what? Like we're 20-year-old dudes when we want to go out and have fun, but if we want to do this, like we got to share a room and sleep in the same bed, man.
yeah,
And it's like, yo, okay, but and I feel like out here, man, like even myself, like the idea to do that with someone right now, I'd be like, what? Like, are you like really, But it's
yeah,
like you just get past whatever it is, man. And the experience that actually comes from that, from like those moments. And I think to emphasize again that circle of like having the people who like build you up the most and like, you know, care about you the most and want to have at that time especially the most fun with, and you bring them with you, man, and you all just buckle down. And if that's like, if
Yeah,
that's what you have to do it, then sure, man, three people in a bed if we got it, whatever,
yeah,
right?
we have
And
to.
I think that's the awesome thing, man. And I think that's like
Yeah,
what we kind of need to like, maybe I don't want to say drop the stigma on, because it's not like there's even stigma, but like put that idea into our minds a little more, that like, why not have the people who surround you and like are closest to you, man, like be the people like you like have a place with, that you can have all these times with, you know,
yeah.
like rather than renting a place to yourself just so you can have your own pad, or like
There you go.
or living with your family where you're miserable and you feel like they set all the rules. Well, guess what, it's their house, you know. And if you got
Yeah,
buddies that
sure.
you click with, and like no matter what the circumstance, like yeah, you're gonna butt heads, but at the end of the day, man, like that's gonna be an optimal situation for you guys to actually build, especially when you say you're still trying to figure out what the passion is and stuff, man. And as a bunch of young men trying to find that, like, in my opinion, at least, it's a lot easier to do that when you got that base, bro, and that stick
Yeah,
together circle.
definitely. I 100% agree with you. Like Vancouver is, as you're well aware, is probably one of the most expensive cities in Canada, if not the most expensive. And the fact that we could like, just because we're young and we don't really have much barriers. Sometimes there can be like stigma, maybe as you say, when people get a little bit older, they want their own place and their own furniture and nobody else jumping on it and all that kind of stuff. But when you're 20, 21, 22, I couldn't give a lesser fuck who's coming in, like who's drinking in the house. So that was a great experience, especially because I'm not sure if you know, but in Dublin we have like a rental crisis where it's almost impossible to buy your own place until you're like maybe 27, 28, 29. And so that for us was like absolute freedom when we got there, and that it was so worth it to share. I shared a bed with Peter. I play on a basketball team with him. We were like killing each other at some stages during the summer, but for the most part, we had like the greatest time. So yeah, you're right. It's a unique thing. We're very lucky to be able to do that. But yeah, it's definitely one of the best experiences of college. I would say, yeah, definitely.
Absolutely,
Um,
man. Um, and okay, so another thing I want to ask you here is on the lines of I did kind of mention it again in the last thing I said, but um, the fact that you're trying to explore that passion and trying to find your way around that. When you talk about that, man, like maybe I want I want to find a better idea of what you feel you're doing, or even like how these things along the way, like this experience, may without even realizing, without reflecting maybe now and looking back on it, like how those experiences have actually helped you narrow that path, or kind of expand out into the woods where you thought you were just on this narrow path, if that makes sense.
yeah, so I would agree. And sometimes, like business students, you go to university and you kind of, in Dublin anyway, sometimes it's like you do accounting, you do marketing, or you do perhaps finance or business management. So it can be very kind of defined roles. And I like that to some regard, but I also like the fact that because we got to go away, we got out of our comfort zone. When I found out that I like other things that I don't know if I want to be in one of those paths for now, I just want to take a year to kind of figure out what I do like. But what I did learn from my time maybe in Jasper with yourself or um, a few other people, when I met you, like I was on my own. So I didn't have anything to relate to about any past experiences. So I was completely out of my comfort zone with a lot of people, your buddies who became my buddies, um, that I could relate to, but we didn't have anything like any past experience. So I was like I was out of my depth in that regard. But it was good because I got to learn from your guys' experience. Like you're pretty big on poetry, and I thought that was pretty cool. I got to spend a lot of time listening to what you wrote, and man, I was like the worst English student. I was just not very good at English. I found
Yeah.
poetry hard, and I found it really tedious. But when I was listening to your stuff and it like reminded me like Macklemore kind of that kind of poetry with like a flow, I thought that was really cool. That's something I spent a lot of time reading with you in the woods in the campsite. We
Yeah,
were
man.
reading some of the poems you wrote. So that man, I haven't even gone back to poetry, but on a side tangent, it was really a great experience to see what you wrote. That was
Yeah,
cool.
man. Yo, that it's funny because I completely forgot about showing you guys those, and
Yeah,
since then I went and lived in Ottawa after that for a year, and in that year, man, I got 2 of those actually produced, and I guess this will
fantastic.
be a good point for me, like maybe to express some like fear, or doubt around that. Where, man, I've had 2 of them produced, like like for I just had a
Yeah,
buddy do it for like fairly cheap, and they sound alright, man, and I just didn't. I was like, I'm not like gonna put these out on Spotify or like there's no but even the one I showed you, man, that first one I made, I found a new uh, background kind of beat or whatever you may call it to put behind it. And I found a way to express it in a new way, man, that actually feels more true to what the message actually is.
okay.
And yeah, so it's cool you say that because I still actually look at that. And to me, it's like, why do I keep sculpting this into something? Like I'm sitting here sharing this with you out of this spontaneous
Hmm.
idea to turn my closet into a podcast studio.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Right. And it's like, yeah, I've had these sitting in my laptop or wherever they are and some of them are written, man, and I just haven't done anything with them. And it's like, I'm sitting here creating, like, why am I not
Getting it
creating
out there.
something? And yeah, or like, what's my fear? Or like, I don't know. Maybe that's something I need to take time for myself and explore. But yeah, there is some sort of like fear around like putting that sort of thing out there. Like I don't at this point I'm not afraid to speak my opinion, but I think when it comes to something like that that's a little more creative, I
Yeah,
think I'm finally jumping over that hurdle in video where I feel comfortable just putting things out now. But yeah, man, I
yeah,
think I have like a bigger hurdle that I need to jump over in terms of like trying to put those things out. I think this for me, it's maybe the idea of because we're men, man, and we're males, and the idea of
sure.
being a male and not be, But I also watch lots of dudes like post spoken word poetry, so like I don't know, man. That's something cool. I think I need to walk away from today and kind of think about myself. So it's cool that you
Yeah,
brought that up, and I appreciate it, man.
you definitely have a talent for it. That's for sure.
Yeah, man.
Very
And I
personal
enjoy
stuff in
it,
your
right?
poems. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I think you
Um,
should definitely pursue uh, something to do with those poems because some of them are really, really good. I like them personally,
yeah, man.
and
Well, I
I don't like
appreciate that.
poetry.
Yeah. That's
That's pretty
awesome.
good. Yeah.
Okay, so going off some of these things and trying to spitball where we can go next year, and maybe in terms of some of your fears, man, moving forward, and like even though you may not have a full idea of what that passion is, and I don't think I do either, man. Maybe none of us ever do. I think that's always kind of changing and revolving as we go, but
Mhm.
even maybe a fear within kind of the stigma we have as males, or just a fear in the path of in the direction you're going. Like what's something you see in the way that might be an obstacle, but maybe it's just something not as big we might be looking at as fearful or doubt within us.
Yeah. I think one thing for me is the fact that after going to university, you're kind of expected to do some job that leads on from university. Rather, I don't know. I think I have more of an interest in kind of like maybe construction or renovation or those kind of things. Maybe on the side even. My kind of fear is like perhaps not a fear, but like you'll always get the stigma of if you just say went and did something that you could have done straight out of high school. Perhaps instead of going to college first, you might think in the back of your head, people would be like, oh, well, that was a waste. 4 years was a waste. But I don't know. For me, I'm just taking a year to figure out what I do like, and then I'm gonna make my own decision. But definitely there can be a thing of like pigeonholing. We call it. I don't know if you call it pigeonholing as well, where you just kind
Yeah,
of
it was in some ways.
you get yourself on kind of a single track, and you like try like society makes you like not veer off that track as such.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm interested in exploring if there's anything else out there that I kind of like. But we'll figure it out in the next year.
Yeah. And I think with you saying that, man, it reminded me of something throughout our trip that actually um, I think is like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like an actual like characteristic you possess, man, that I actually appreciate. And that's, I remember, man, like there's nothing when you wanted to do something like even when we met you and we were all sticking together as a group, it was like, if you wanted to go do this, like you were just going to go do it. It's like, I'm going to go do
Yeah.
this. And yeah, like, I don't, it's, if I
Yeah.
separate from the group, like, hey, we know where the campsites are, but like, I'm going to go do this. Like, if you guys want to come, like, cool, but I might just actually go this way. And I think that's a super important quality, man, because when we talk about that circle and everything, um, and even in that time where you're meeting new people, they're like, it's very easy to just kind of go with
Follow the
everyone,
crowd.
right? Because that's where everyone's
Yeah.
going. But what I
Sure.
thought was cool, man, is that you almost carried that crowd where you wanted to go because everyone was so focused on staying together that it was like, oh, if Kev goes this way, we'll just go with Kev. Right. But then it's like, in a way, that's good. But in a way, it's like, are
It's
we
also
really
dangerous.
thinking for ourselves? Yeah. And maybe
Yeah.
Kev just wanted to go do his own thing. Right. And
Maybe.
maybe
Yeah.
like, you're right. Like, who knows? But
Yeah.
I think the idea of, and maybe just going into greater depth in this and how you kind of see this through your own perspective of just those situations and not being worried about like if the crowd's going to be in on it or if you want to do something and maybe that's something you didn't know you possess or maybe I'm characterizing wrong, but
Yeah.
just if
No,
you
it is something that I've spoken to people about before. Uh, Specifically, a past girlfriend, we had this conversation about kind of sometimes with me, I get myself in a situation where um, if I want to do something, I'm going to do it. It doesn't matter if I don't have enough money or I'm not supposed to be doing that. If I want to do it, I just go and do it, which can be good and can also be very bad. But like going out to Vancouver in the summers, I didn't always have enough money to go to Vancouver, but you just found a way to make it work. So
Mhm.
it is a trait that's kind of it's a little bit contrarian or twisted, and I've always been like that since a kid for some reason. Just a little bit strange or off the beaten track with my own decisions. I'm not really afraid to offend people. So yeah, that's just. I'm not sure. I've always kind of been like that. I like kind of
Yeah, man.
controversy.
And I found along that way and at that time I was getting better at it, but it was something very personal to me that I knew I struggled with was conflict and um, how to speak up for myself, but also other people who felt they couldn't speak up. And now I found in the last year or two, it's been more about doing that in the right way. At this point, I have no problem, uh, almost no problem speaking my opinion.
Right.
If I can understand where that person is or what that the reaction could be and how I could
Yeah.
navigate through that conversation, right? So um, I think that could be something. I know a couple people along the way have really helped me with that, man. But I think that was something I really appreciated out of you. And I actually one experience I think, and when you explained this and shared this story, there was something that kind of vividly came in my head. And the night where we went down to the beach and stuff there, I think you know what I'm talking about. And yeah, we had went down and had a good time at this beach. We were come back up, and we were actually walking home at this point, and there were some guys starting trouble or something. They might not have even been starting trouble, but they said something that might have been like a racial slur. And I know this kind of relates now into, I guess, kind of the time we're in and what's kind of going on in current events. But um, I don't even think it was about the Irish, man. I think it was just about another race in general or another human being, let's say, because that's what it is at the end of the day. Um,
Yeah.
and you just jumped in, man. It wasn't even your conversation. We were just walking by, and you literally were like, "Yo, like, man, you can't say that," or whatever it might have been. I might be getting it wrong. I don't know if you remember
Yeah.
this, but
No,
um,
you're right. Yeah, it was just I just heard a comment that was a bit off the wall, and I don't know. I just kind of like I'm not going to stand there and listen to that. Maybe just
yeah,
say
man.
something, but that can be dangerous too. That can like get you. If that guy's a lunatic, you could end up in a lot of trouble. But I don't know. I think I was walking with you and Peter and maybe somebody else, and yeah, I just kind of heard that, and I was like, "No, hold on a minute, you can't be saying that." So yeah, just intervene, and we just kind of talked it out. Nobody got like riled up or anything like that. It was
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and it was fine.
just a
Yeah, and we
talk.
all went our separate ways. And I think they ended up giving you a beer or something, man, or
I think
something
they
like
did,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But
Worked out pretty
yo,
well.
I think that's like super important, man. Is something that we kind of need to understand. Is it can be definitely go both ways, but I think To relate it, at the current date is this 6th of 4th of June, 4th of June,
Something like
and
that.
that we're recording this right now. It's not
Yeah.
live, so that's why I say this. But the current events going on is what's going on outside with the peaceful protests and everything. I'm here in Vancouver, and there's been stuff going on all week. Um, and yeah, man, I think in this time where myself being someone who's white and obviously has had privilege, and now to kind of be in this situation where, in my opinion, we really do need to speak up, but we've been silent for so long, man. And like I think that's where the real discomfort and people may be having these conversations and things are wondering what they can do. Just from my own perspective, and I think we all need to do it. It's just the fact that, like, man, like we have this long list now, man, of things that have happened, and like we all know it has happened and we've all seen it happen. And
Yeah.
now at this point where everyone is starting to stand up, it's kind of that inner question of like, okay, man, like you gotta, to move forward here, you gotta understand that we all stayed silent for all of these things, and that this is uncomfortable, and we put that discomfort on ourselves. And you know what we don't
Yeah.
know about the lives of others and what they go through every day, uh, is beyond our own discomfort of the things that we decided to silence in our past, man. So
Yeah.
I think that characteristic, to spin it in the good way, is that we all need to be like that, man. Like we all need to have more of that sense of, you can't say shit like that, man. Who
Yeah.
cares if that's a guy there? I know we were in a group, but and again, like relating it into what I was saying earlier about finding the right way to say things and understanding how, going into a conversation, before you even speak to someone, whether it may be a stranger, there's vibes. And like we as human beings, this energy, whatever you may want to call it, will go beyond religion here, but this vibe or vibrations or energy, we feel it. We might not
Yeah.
consciously understand it, but there's things going on before we even speak to let us know throughout our body and our brain that what we can and cannot kind of say, or how to say things. We just have to be more in touch with that, in my own opinion. Um,
Hmm.
so, man, I think moving forward, yeah, it's not only having the confidence and understanding to speak up in the right way and get beyond the things that we've kind of swept under the rug, but to be able to just have the conversations, man. To, even for me and you, to take, even if it's a few minutes right now, to speak about this, because it's, yeah, not everyone can go out and protest, or people might live in rural communities, and we can post on social media, we can participate in all these things, but at the end of the day, we need to set down our phones, and the people that are around us, we need to sit down and talk to them. And we need to,
Yeah.
whether it, not to point fingers, not to say what we need to do, but talk about it.
Sure.
Because at, really, man, like it's that's going to start to allow us to get past that discomfort, and that, really, man, we should feel regret and we should feel guilty. I do,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
like, it for me, it's like, what can I do with this camera gear, and with these people's stories, that I can find a way to help this movement, man. Because it is something that needs to change. And I think us as the privileged people, no matter what color our skin, and the majority of us, yeah, we're white, and like
Yeah.
we need to do things, man. And it's like understanding that we all have skills and how we can do that. And if you don't feel you can do anything, then at least sit down with someone you love and have a conversation about maybe what we've done to suppress this in the last even 5-10 years of our lives. Some of
Sure.
us have only been here 20, 25 years. And, like,
Yeah.
what have we done to participate in that? Whether it been make a joke at someone in school, whether it been make a comment on something, whether, it been actually something fucking racist, man, and
Yeah.
rude and obscene, and speaking about those things and owning up, man, because I think that's the thing that's going to push us beyond our guilt. I know I'm kind of just ranting here, but
No, no,
uh,
no. You're making complete sense. Would
yeah,
agree.
and we kind of it's our ego, and that's what makes it uncomfortable for us in this time, is that
Hmm.
we don't come out a good guy in this. no matter if we stand up with our fellow human beings, man. Like we're not, we don't get to be, there's no heroism for us in this, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, maybe you can end up some sort of anti-hero, but it's not a story. Like this is real life now. And like, you need to realize that like we have been a part of this. We may not be
Yeah.
the police officers. We may not be the people saying a lot of these things, but like we let it happen, man. And in ways that's just as bad as saying it or doing it at
Yeah,
this point.
I definitely think if you do find yourself in those scenarios, you have to hold yourself kind of accountable and maybe the other person accountable. Like it's not right to be silent when someone says something like that. I can't actually remember the specific comment that guy said, but it was something
Me
that
neither.
wasn't right. Yeah. So, just being silent kind of you're adding fuel to the fire, I suppose. Rather you should kind of hold people accountable and say, this is not right. Don't be saying that kind of thing. There's only one race, like the human race. It's not lots of different races.
Yeah,
So
man.
yeah, that's one thing I definitely think. Although you just have to be careful too, because there's a lot of like whack jobs out there who kind of go off, and you don't want to annoy those either.
So I guess to pose it into a question, what we can maybe like chat about for a minute or two here is, what do you feel is a way like we can do that, man? Like how to approach the ways to maybe have these conversations or to kind of speak up your mind. Let's say there's someone listening who like that's their absolute fear, but what's like a tip? Because I don't feel I'm good enough at actually standing up for my ground. And I know, like you said, you feel like it's good and bad, but at the end of the day, man, I think speaking up is a good thing. And I think
Yeah.
if we do it the right way, it can be a great thing. So how, even if you don't do this or you don't know, like if you were to imagine a scenario of the best way to kind of go about moving forward to like kind of converse and speak up without the conflict as best as possible.
Well, perhaps in your own community with your own friends, if somebody did pass some type of comment that wasn't on, like maybe just with your own friends to say, come on, like that that's not on. It might be easier to say it to them than to confront a complete stranger in the dark or that kind of thing. So I think maybe just starting with your own community, maybe with the older generation especially, can be sometimes kind of difficult. Um, I haven't experienced too much of that myself or heard too much of that kind of talk. In Ireland,
Yeah.
it's not. I don't think it's too bad in Ireland. We're only a small little country, and everybody gets quite a good bit of support from the government. But I think just holding the people who are close to you accountable and saying like, no, it's not right, would be maybe a way of going about it. I don't think confronting people is the best idea uh, in some scenarios.
Yeah,
Really,
man. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that was like, if I definitely couldn't have thought that in like my mind process, but I think that's the best way to put that, man, is, you're not going to get socked in the face or anything serious, or, you might get some uncomfy conversation. You might get
yeah,
some emotions that get raised, but it's about getting those emotions back down to a calm level where then you can
yeah,
get through it. Right. And if you can do that with the people you love, it might be friends, it might be your family, it could be your own mother, your grandmother. Right. I literally, man, to be
yeah,
completely honest with you, I found it beautiful. I had a conversation with my grandmother last week, and some we don't get heated on in religion. We have different views. But she said one thing that it just kind of struck me, and I was like, you've never talked to me like that before, and like she was heated in her emotions, and I almost like I had this moment where I was like I could either jump into it, but I was like, this is my grandmother, so I calmed
yeah.
down, and man, like once we got through it, I was like, hey, like she didn't even remember saying what she said. I was like, just so you know, like this is what you said. I don't even remember saying that. But it's
Wow.
like yeah, it's on one side of the spectrum, it's my grandmother. Yeah, she might not remember saying that, but we all do
Sure.
that, man. When our emotions are way up here, whether that be
Mhm.
anger, anxiety, depression, we don't even have full control over what's operating in our brains. Not that we have control over those things at all, but it's just like we don't have full operation over what's going through or filtered in or out. And we have to get back down here, man. So like that's why I think, yeah, like what you're saying is it is dangerous, but if we can always keep it down here,
Yeah.
and do, like you're saying, take those steps within our own family and friends.
Hmm.
Maybe that's the first step to having more controversial and um, constructive conversation, but doing so on a pleasant level, man, where we can still all respect each other. And to get back to my grandmother, we talked that through. We got back down. We had a great
That's good.
chat, and she's like, "I just hope you're not mad." I was like, "Of course not. I love you. I'm never gonna judge." You said, but yeah.
Yeah.
So it's getting back down to that level though, and that's one person in my life I always know, like, I'm never gonna we're gonna be fueled to the point of like hanging up on each other or walking away. Like my grandma, like, bless her heart, like super religious, but she will, like, we'll talk through anything, no matter what opposing
That's great.
beliefs we may have. Yeah, man. And I think that is super important for all of us, man. It's just to kind of respect everyone's opinions, respect their beliefs. I don't know, maybe not in certain times with certain current conflicts, but like at the same time, it's just understanding that those people have their own stories running through their lives, their own past, their own ways of looking at the future. So we don't always understand that, and we don't know. We haven't walked a mile in their shoes. So, man, respect your own opinion and definitely feel free to get out there. But it's just like, yeah, man, I think we do. It's just, I don't even know how to like word it right now, man. But I think even just the fact that we just kind of talked about this, like, my mind's racing now. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, dude. Um, what are we sitting at right now? You're still pretty decent for time, man. Do you have any questions? I know I've just been pounding you with questions. I don't.
Yeah.
But do you have
Just give me
anything
one
for
second.
me?
I just want to pull out these headphones and just put it on loud because it's starting to go on them.
Cool. Yeah, man. So I guess do you have like any questions you want to kind of pick my brain about, or any points that you kind of feel we didn't go as far deep on, or any points you want to add in, man? Any kind of depths of conversation you want to add?
Well, uh, I think I think I would just like to say, I don't know, when I like bumped into you, I was like, this guy's kind of like maybe like a Canadian version or similar ideas, but like North American. Even though I think like Canada's like a hybrid between the US and Europe, like the difference. I don't know, I thought me and you got along pretty well. Just kind of similar kind of mindset of let's see what happens. And don't like maybe not pigeonholing yourself too much, because you were saying you like stepped away from going to college. You were like, I want to try a different path.
Yeah, man.
And you were saying you were getting going, working in a place and getting some experience, serving and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty cool,
Yeah.
and inspirational, that perhaps I wanted to take a year off after university to kind of explore something else. So yeah, I really respected that. Thought it was something pretty cool that I could learn from, for sure.
Absolutely, man. It's cool. Like, I don't really think about it like that sometimes, but yeah, man. And when I first dropped out of college, I remember being like, the way I thought about it was like, I'm gonna show like I can do this without college. Uh, totally the wrong way now looking at it, like to actually go about it. But I think, man, if it's there and you feel like that's there to help, and that's how you can focus on getting those achievements best, and absolutely, man. And if there was something I feel that school would propel me in now, it wouldn't even be a question. But it's more so the fact of like, with serving, man, it taught me so much about communication. It taught me so much about having these conversations, and why strangers, when I was pouring their coffee, were telling me stories about their life, man. And it's just the curiosity of like, how do we get to these depths with just strangers, man? But with our brothers and sisters and friends and family, we can't. And it's like, that seems kind of backwards to me, man. We should be working on the stranger thing, and we should be having it with our family, right? So for me,
Sure.
the build up, it's cool to see the podcast and everything happening now, no matter number of listeners or anything. I think it's just cool that I'm able to build this now as a conversation, and serving led me. Now I'm out here in Vancouver. I had this split opportunity, like we were talking about earlier, man. I had no money. I was in Ottawa. I was serving. And all of a sudden I have this random opportunity while I'm broke to go out to Vancouver, have a room, and possibly potentially have a day in film. And I bought a
Yeah.
$220 plane, bro, jumped on that plane after a week spending with my family, and that was it. I was here. The next day I was in film, and 3 weeks later I was up in departments. Now I work in lighting, bro. So, and now this is now my schooling platform, but I get paid the best money I've ever made to
Yeah.
learn the best quality education that's come from
Sure.
it, and now been able to invest in more gear, better lights, understanding how to manipulate these things to get a better quality content at the end of the day, man. And I think it's really cool to bring that up because
Yeah.
I don't
You're
think I
definitely a very curious kid, Dylan. That's what I definitely noticed. You're like fascinated by things that you don't know or that you aren't used to, or people with abstract ideas. You just hear like your eyes lighting up and a big
yeah, man.
smile coming across your face.
But yeah, and to go on, even to relate this into what we were saying about how people can have these conversations, man, I think for me, and to also tie it into what you're saying about the smiling, man, um, a changing point for me was I remember everyone when I was a kid saying, and even when I was growing up and now a teenager and in college, saying like, "Oh, I just remember how smiley you were as a kid. Like you just had this permanent smile on your face." And at
Yeah.
some of my darker points, man, I started to think like, what happened to that kid? Like I'm still the same person, but where's the smiley kid like that? So I started to look at that kid, man, and I started to look back almost like a movie and be like, what did that kid do that led to the smile on his face, man? And guess what he did? He created. He imagined movie scenes in his backyard while he was by himself, and he had the whole thing going in his mind, and he was the main character. And and then when he was with his friends, he was putting things together, and we'd make little movies and edit some sound in and put it on Windows Movie Maker and share it to Facebook. And like I was creating, man. I was curious. I was trying to like entertain. And as soon as I started putting those things back into place and pushing that curiosity further, man, my biggest struggle now is action, which I'm grateful I'm finally taking a bit of with the right people around me.
Yeah.
But man, yeah, like it came to asking myself the biggest question I've ever asked myself, which was, where did that smiley kid go? And I think you can clearly see, man, as you've experienced, from previous experiences with me and now, that man, like I found that kid, man, and like I forgot that I am that kid, and I always will.
Yeah, you are. That's true.
And
Definitely.
that doesn't mean that you're not going to grow up, man. We talk about the idea of growing up, um, but I think that goes into what we started this conversation about, and the societal norms and structure that we're supposed to follow. And that's not saying that everyone needs to jump off that path, but I think to question whether we belong on that specific path at that time, or if we're curious what that tree looks like out in the bush.
Yeah, that's
I
a
was
great
like, if
mindset.
you are, man, if you are, then just go look at the tree, touch it.
Yeah,
If you're like, oh damn, that wasn't what I thought it was, then just hop back on, man. Sometimes you're gonna get lost, but you'll always find a way
exactly.
back to a trail.
I agree with you. It's a great way to be.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
yeah, yeah. I think one thing also you're not like you're definitely very motivated in your work, and to a T. But like when I hang out with you, or when I did hang out with you at the time, you're like I'm not like a lot more like nonchalant or like laissez-faire than me in regards to like I come from like a big city, but like all of my friends, everybody's kind of like doing similar things, like defined roles. And then I see you like you're 1 or 2 years older than me, but just like moving around to Vancouver and just like going with the flow and go not sorry with the flow, but with what you wanted to do. Like you want to be a film, so you're gonna go and hunt for that. I think that's really cool and something I've definitely learned from, because to just like pack up everything and head for Vancouver is definitely takes a pair of balls.
Yeah,
So yeah,
man.
that's why I wish you all the best with it, for sure.
Absolutely, man. It's funny that like we both basically find value in each other for the exact same reasons, which
Yeah,
is hilarious.
true.
It's like if we're both, because that's the same thing for me, man. It's like I admired the fact that you got out to Vancouver by hitchhike and that you were doing these things and saying, nah, I'll just do it, man. Like, and like I was worried, and I come from like a very on my mom's side of the family, bless everyone's hearts. Uh, we tend to over worry a lot, man. And it's something I'm trying to really focus on myself and just like trying to is this something to actually worry about or be careful about, or am I over worrying and stressing? Because I know that that isn't healthy for me. So I always appreciate it, man, that yeah, you kind of had that same mindset, and that we even talked about how you and the boys just packed up and moved out here, man. And I think a good point on that is that we look at everyone else as these modes of like inspiration and that motivates, which is great. But at the end of the day, like some of these things, like we're already doing, we're just not giving ourselves like the benefit or like gratitude or respect that, like, hey, man, like you're doing this too. And I think the
Yeah.
nice thing is that we've now sat down and we're at the point where it's like, dang, man, a lot of this stuff we're saying, we remember, and I remember now you saying it of like, and me, we were talking about it at one point when we were both in Vancouver here, of how similar we really are, man. And like, you're the
Yeah.
Irish me and I'm the Canadian you. So we do have very similar mindsets, man. So even to have this conversation and
Sure.
just remember the fact that um, I feel like I've taken in so much just from talking to you, man. And some of those things is the same thing you're getting from me. And we really just
Yeah.
can do for ourselves, man. And all this inspiration and motivation really does come from within, because you can take in this content and someone can watch this, sure, but it's how we apply those things, right? And because of how I've applied the characteristics that I enjoyed about you, man, and all these people along the way, right? And that can be people from film, that can be people from my job in serving, from my adventures, right down to when I worked at McDonald's, man. Like,
Yeah.
not down, because I don't even mean to put it, but like that, I just mean my first kind of jobs. And
Sure.
they all have value, man. And they all lead to
They
something
do.
and the experience as a whole, right? Not one single story, but the stories that create the experience.
Yes, I agree. Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. I like it. I like it. So we'll start maybe slowing down here and getting to the end.
Sure.
But again, I'll ask you, is there any like questions you maybe want to ask? I feel like I've definitely got to prick your brain lots, man. It's been a good time because we only get to have a handful of conversations every now and then. So it's been beautiful to even have this amount of time with you, man.
Sure. I haven't. I kind of checked out from. We haven't chatted in a while. We were chatting maybe a month or two ago. But I'm just wondering, what are you up to right now? Are you
Yeah, man.
working or?
No, so we are still out of work and film. From what I'm
Okay.
hearing, maybe July. Things
Okay.
will start back up. But my intentions right now are building up my camera gear and stuff like this, man, and having the things like the podcast, trying to put more videos out, get better with all my equipment and editing and things like this. So, if I want, I can go out into the community. I've been looking at some small local businesses right around within a 1 to 2 kilometer range from my house. There's about 70 plus local businesses. So I figure the way I look at it is, if I approach them with the gear I have, with the experience I have right now, there's no way I can't get one to say yes. So
Yeah,
uh,
you
that's
can
the
do it.
plan right now, man. And then I want to be able to take that maybe by the fall time home, have maybe a couple videos from here that I've done as work to bring home with me and start doing that back home um, for the
So,
community
so
that
your
brought me
intention
up.
is to go back out east, or?
Eventually, yeah, man, I want to build what I'm doing right now and the skills, and whether I end up back at work or whether I just keep doing my own thing. Ideally, my long term plan is I do want to do my own thing, so I have the freedom to be where I want. So,
Okay.
yeah, and I know I do want to start speaking. Man, that's the actual underlying intention of getting home. I want to be with my family more, especially after a time like this. But
Yeah,
I
I understand.
also want to go back to my high school, man, and speak. I want to do a presentation, so I want to film that up and then pitch it out to schools and basically use that as a springboard to get back out west maybe the following year and travel the
Nice.
country and hit up schools along the way and hopefully make some impact beyond just seeing the country.
Definitely. So would you say like you'll always be from the East, like, or you like the West more, or
That's a great
what would you
question,
say?
man.
Vancouver's a great city. Like
Yeah.
it's like
How?
paradise.
Whoops, shooky here. The best way I could put it, man, is I talked to my buddy about this the other week, and he lives out here, and he's from my hometown as well. And it's that home will always be home, but I
Yeah,
see Vancouver as my home base, like moving forward.
right.
I see Vancouver and the West Coast as the place that's gonna help me grow and develop and learn the most and educate myself and have the exposure to build things. But I know that back home, where I'm from, is equally as important because I want to do my part to build that community better than it is and was, and within my own family and friend group as well, right? So
Nice.
that's the big main goal for me right now is the back home. But I know that Vancouver is always the base to build and grow it bigger. Like it's the endless resource, man. It's the city, like it's a creative hub, man. It's where all kind of art is like popping out in Canada. In terms of film, like Toronto, yeah, but just the environment, man. Beyond the work and the opportunities, it's the mountains, it's the ocean, it's the nature, it's the fresh air, it's the mindset, it's the attitude. I could give you a list, not that any of
It's
those
a
things
great
are on
city,
paper.
definitely.
So that kind of is my answer to that. And I guess I would love to ask you the same thing, man, the same question.
Yeah. So I have a great love for Vancouver. Um, I don't know why there's not something like drawing me back there. Probably the greatest city I've ever been to, I would say. I've been to a lot of cities, but for me, the climate is perfect. Like kind of a little bit rainy. I like a little bit rainy, not like a little bit of solid sun in the summer, and then kind of that kind of mild climate is perfect for me in Ireland. Um, but I don't know. I'm actually really happy in Dublin. Dublin's like a great city.
Yeah.
I have like a great bunch of friends too. So yeah, I have a great community and my parents, stuff like that. So I'm just gonna kind of build from here and think about what I want to do. I kind of keep a low profile and yeah, I don't know. Figure out. I've been to a lot of places from getting the chance to just go, and I don't even have enough money half the time. So I've seen a lot in the last few years, and yeah, Canada's been definitely a very good place to go. But I'm actually more content here in Ireland than I thought I would be. I have no great desire to go anywhere at the moment. Although I was supposed to immigrate to Australia for a year 2 weeks ago, but my flights got cancelled. But
Oh man.
yeah, so maybe I'll go in September, maybe I won't. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Obviously, these are kind of extenuating circumstances with the virus and like people being out of work and stuff like that. So now might be a time to hang around. As compared to other times when I just generally fuck off straight away.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So
yeah.
that'll be that. I'll also ask you the first question you asked me, and then what are you doing right now, man? And what's next? How do you see the next, maybe let's say 6 months rolling out for you?
Yeah.
With what
so
you've already just said.
Yeah. No. So I just finished my exams 2 weeks ago. Renovating the house. Basically, my parents always put time into coming to our football matches and stuff, and maybe instead of painting all the walls and doing all the trims around the door and stuff, they kind of went and watched football or basketball instead. So I need to kind of get back and catch up on all that for them, get that done, get the house painted, get shit moved around. So once I get that done, I'm just gonna once the coronavirus payment stops in Ireland, and then I'll pivot and I'm gonna get it some type of job. But I would like to work to learn, not really work for money for a while. I'm not really that interested in getting some type of job. Like I would work anywhere. Like I've worked at McDonald's, same as yourself before. The job doesn't really bother me, but I would like to learn something, a little skill, a little side job that I could do in the future on the side of another job. It's like some type of thing that you can do for, I don't know, on a weekend or after work, So I'm kind of focusing on something like that. That'd be something I would like to get into. Yeah, so that's kind of my plan. I have 1 year to just do whatever the fuck I want, and that's gonna be what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, I'm pumped, man. Well, what we will do is I definitely hope before then, but we will have another one of these in this 1 year period, 1 year from today. And we will see exactly
Definitely.
where we are compared to that last time. That's the beauty of this conversation, man, is we'll always be able to look back on it and see how we're learning and growing always, man.
Yeah, I hopefully we get to meet up again sometime.
Oh
Maybe
man,
come over to Canada. It'd be so
that'd be
good.
beautiful. Well, hopefully I can just make my way your way, man. That'd be the plan,
Yeah,
man.
even better.
Love to have you at home, but I'd love to
Yeah,
see you.
right back at you.
Maybe next time I'll be able to sit beside you and give you a big hug.
Yeah, hopefully so.
Yeah, buddy. Okay, well, I guess we'll kind of finish it up there. But man, it's been absolutely awesome catching up with
Yeah,
you again, man. You definitely reinvigorated some of the things that you kind of instilled in me in the time that we did spend together, man, and refueled them in a way that reminded me that at the end of the day, man, all this stuff as well is coming from inside of me, man. Because at the end of the day, you're just the Irish me, and I'm just the Canadian you.
yeah, that's it.
All right, buddy. Well, you take it easy. Have a good day, and I'll
Yeah,
be catching you, and I'll shoot you a copy of this before it goes live, so that you can make
perfect.
sure it's all good to go.
Good stuff. All the best to you, lad.
All right, man. Easy. Message me whenever you want, buddy. I'm always excited to hear from you.
Yeah. All right,
All
dude.
right.
Take it
Peace out,
easy.
buddy.
Nice
Stay
talking to you.
curious, eh?
Hey, stay curious.
You got it.